Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here, and welcome back to another live stream. I think we can officially call it our weekly live stream now. And I have Paddy here again from Shamrock Pool.
Hiya, Paul. How's it going?
Good now.
Hi, everybody, for joining us. Yeah, I'd probably say it's weekly now. I suppose we're getting a bit committed.
Right, this is our second. We've done it 2 weeks in a row now, so we're getting more regular.
Yeah. It's a New Year's resolution for me.
That's it. It's something that sometimes I procrastinate about getting my videos out, but when I've someone else to push me and say, "Oh, the live stream is happening," it's good. Makes me get on as well. Yeah. So I'm just going to share it out, and then we can kick into it. Anyone listening, let us know if the audio is okay. I think it should be. Check on my own phone here as well.
All good from this side, Paul. I think another one. It gives me an excuse to have a beer on a Wednesday night.
So what's the beer tonight? Audio and videos. Good. That's good.
So I have I didn't go for anything that most people might have. So we have Rockshore. It's an Irish beer. Is it made by Guinness or Diageo, or is it Guinness?
Yeah, made by Guinness as far as I know. Just checking. Yeah, we're coming through.
No, it's not. It doesn't look like Guinness. It doesn't look like a normal lager. It's pretty nice. I had a few of them over Christmas actually. And
I've had it a few times before, and it's a nice light beer.
Yeah. I don't plan to get the good heavy one tonight. It's only 4%, pretty weak to some standards. It's not as good as some of the German beers. I'll try and find some of those for the coming weeks. But taking it easy. I wasn't doing dry January. If anybody is, feel free to shout out. But I'm not. I don't have the willpower for it, Paul. I don't have the willpower.
Yeah, I have a non-alcoholic one tonight. Not doing dry January, but just didn't grab a beer when I was coming out. Right, let's have a look at crypto. We'll get back. We'll go through some of the news items, then we'll go back to questions, see what's going on there. And anyone with questions, throw them into the chat. Do give the video a like, share it out there as well. It really does help. Notifications from us not doing them that regular yet don't always go out. So any interaction with the video, really do appreciate it. Let me bring up my screen then. So start off with a non-Cardano one here. Something earlier on today, there was a kind of fear going around with the announcements that the DOJ were going to, they announced a major international crypto enforcement action. There was all sorts of guesses, worried, people wondering what it was going to be about. It turned out when it did actually come out that it wasn't actually a whole lot. Well, it wasn't as near as bad as lots of people might have expected. Russian exchange, Bitslavo, the US charges crypto exchange, Bitslavo, is laundering $700 million. So they said that they weren't using KYC, so it meant that it let anyone come in and just use the exchange. And they said there was money laundering going on from the dark web. And that was, I listened to the live stream because when I seen it announced, I was thinking, shit, what's it going to be? But there was maybe 5 different departments all came on, all said that stream there. They all said the exact same thing, all clapping themselves on the back about how great they were. And look, regulation is good. I think within centralized exchanges, we have to bring it in. It's when you see what has happened with some of the exchanges out there and people losing money, it's just not going to help the space move forward. So we do need regulation, but we need to be a part of the discussions that happen there. So did you see the panic with all this earlier?
I was busy all day, but were they doing no KYC altogether? There was nothing?
I didn't really know about the exchange before this thing came up. I think I heard the name before, but one that I've never used or never looked into. But from what they said in it, they weren't using KYC, or maybe it was lax for some people on the exchange. You can see in the markets the effect that it had when the announcements came out. We were just starting to push up here nicely and then completely fell out of it. When the announcement came out and people seen, okay, it's not near as bad as people thought it might be, markets started to stabilize. At the minute, waiting to see where this plays out, but I'm not going to worry too much about it yet. What's your
opinion, Paul, on KYC exchanges? What's your opinion on the KYC exchanges? Do you think that should be part of the ecosystem? You know, and should they be get rid of altogether? Do you think there's more risk than reward than having them? I know a lot of people, not to name any names, but use these exchanges, and I think it is maybe a little bit tax avoidance, and that it's harder to track what's going on and nobody knows. But they also come at tons of risk. You know, a lot of them you're not guaranteed of even being able to withdraw once you've put the stuff in. Is some of the things that I've seen over the years now. I generally don't use them anymore myself, but I have done. You know.
You don't use centralized or non-KYC centralized?
KYC, non-KYC.
Yeah, I generally don't use them much either. The only one that I use a decent bit that isn't KYC would be Bybit. Now, they are KYC, but they have, like Binance used to have, they have very high withdrawal limits for non-KYC. So I do use that one for trading, but generally wouldn't keep much on. I wouldn't keep much on any exchange, any centralized exchange at all. Only money that I am trading. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Generally, my main exchanges would be Kraken for fiat on and off ramp, Binance, just general trading altcoins, and then if I was using leverage or something, that'd be Bybit. But if I can stick to decentralized exchanges, that's generally where I try and do most of day-to-day trading or something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this comes back to the old saying of you know, withdraw your crypto from exchanges and not your keys sort of scenario. And even more so with, you know, sketchy exchanges, definitely don't leave anything there. And sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to catch this trade. You know, I'm going to catch the next whatever. And I think, you know, I have to keep it in there. But most blockchains now, it's pretty quickly to deposit and withdraw. And, you know, so it shouldn't be a problem. Remove the risk is the big thing that I always say to people. Remove the risk. Keep it yourself. It's okay if you lose it, but if someone else loses it, then you've no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you lose your own keys, then you only have yourself to blame. Now, the argument is starting to come out a lot more again about whether people should have custody of their own assets. We see some high-profile people. There was a Bitcoin developer there a few weeks ago, lost a substantial amount of Bitcoin. There was an NFT influencer there who downloaded malware on his computer and lost everything as well. So people are starting to look, well, if people like that who supposedly understand things very well and they lose their crypto, then how can the normal everyday person? So there's definitely a role for centralized exchanges, but to me, it's a stepping stone. So you go on, you use the centralized exchange, you get used to it, get yourself a hardware wallet. Their ledgers now are $70, $80, something like that. So if you have any amount of crypto at all, get that. And that gives you an extra layer of security as well. So I would say use centralized exchanges, but learn how to keep custody of your funds yourself. And when you're fully comfortable with it, then take it out. If you're going to keep your funds on an exchange, don't keep them on any of the smaller exchanges. I know you can look at FTX that was seen as one of the biggest ones and it still crashed. So you always have that risk. But if I was going to keep it on any of them, it would be some of the bigger ones, the likes of Kraken. Some people don't like Binance. I still put it as one of my more trusted ones, but still wouldn't hold much funds on it.
I would say, and I'll throw it out there, Coinbase. Now, its fees are massive. Yeah. But it's so heavily regulated and it's so intertwined with regulation within Coinbase, it's pretty safe, you know. It cannot operate and trade within the US through also being listed without having tons of regulation strapped to it. So it is, in my mind, it's safe, but the fees are a bit high. But, you know, it's give and take, isn't it?
Yeah, I forgot about it there. But yeah, it's definitely one of the ones that will be up there for that you think you should be able to trust anyway. As like I said, I wouldn't trust any of them fully, but it's definitely up there. If you're going to keep it on any of them, it's probably one of the more trusted ones for now anyway.
Let's see if there's going to be any more exchanges over the next couple of weeks that go. It's always the rumor at the minute.
It's there's still questions over even some bigger ones that people wondering about. Are they liquid? Do they have the funds to fulfill withdrawals? This was one that you sent me over just before as well about the crypto backers are purposely taking a very dangerous path, the EU regulator says, where they're trying to bring in more regulation on centralized exchanges as well. You've went through it as well. Do you want to have
Yeah, so basically we got MiCA is the term for it from the EU perspective. I'm not sure the US equivalent, but I'm sure they'll come up with some sort of term whenever they do get around to it. Is that EU is, what the EU is like. It's heavily regulated. They make laws. There's a lot of people who spend their days doing that for the EU. But the MiCA, well, a lot of people have messaged me in the past about MiCA, and people within the European Union, a lot of Irish guys. What's going on? What's this going to mean? What's going to happen? Am I going to then, everybody going to see my crypto? Will they be able to know what I'm doing in Brussels? All this madness. But really and truly, the way I boil it down to is they're going to make the guys who run the exchanges liable for their customers' funds, and that's, to me, that's more important than everything else. And what they might put in. I'm not against KYC. I'm not against any of the other regulations they might put in of having to list certain things. Crypto needs regulation. It cannot continue to exist out in the wilderness outside the financial systems of the world. And for crypto to become, would you say, indoctrinated into everything, it needs regulation, because, the massive hedge funds, the other big investment vehicles in the world aren't going to invest all their money, or they might do a small percentage, but they got to be in everything that's regulated, because they're massively regulated themselves. You can imagine the scenario. A hedge fund in somewhere in the EU is, heavy leveraged within crypto, and everything goes bust. It's gone, and they go, well, what did you do? It's basically you made a gamble, did it all the way, is the best way of describing it, if it's totally unregulated. But MiCA, a lot of people are, scared of it, I guess. But I think it's going to be good, and it's the only thing we can do. Look at everything that's happened recently. Celsius, FTX, and I think there will be more. And there's been a few other small exchanges and stuff that have went down. And a lot of people have lost a lot of money, and they don't know if they're going to get it back, or it's locked in there, and they don't know if it even still exists. People have messaged me, I have X, Y, and Z on FTX. Do you know if I can get it? And man, it's locked. You're probably going to just put it down as a loss, because I don't know what's happening within the US funds are sort of separate from rest of the world. Apparently the US is safe. I don't know what the status is on the rest of the world.
Yeah, I've seen mixed opinions on that, whether they are safe or not. Sam said they were safe, but then he said a lot of things, so we don't really know what is or isn't. And more than likely, US or non-US, people will be getting back a couple of cents on the dollar in a few years' time. And the majority of money that is still there will end up going to lawyers and bankruptcy agencies and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's when things like this happen. The only people that really win are lawyers, or that area, because they charge huge money to do lawsuits against founders, or to try and go through the bankruptcy courts and stuff like that. So
we're in the wrong field, Paul.
Yeah,
become a crypto lawyer.
Oh, I don't know if I could go back to learning for that many years.
Too old now.
Yeah. So what else have we got here? So in terms of actually just when we are on exchanges, let me see something within the cryptocurrency or within the Cardano ecosystem. That's Mel, will come to them. So Adax, not saying there's issues with the exchange in terms of funds or holding or anything like that, but wanted to bring it to light because I've seen a lot of people talking about it today. Yeah. This is their centralized exchange, not their DEX. So they do have a centralized exchange as well, and it seems that withdrawals from the centralized exchange haven't been working. For mixed views on it. I haven't used it, don't plan to use it either. Again, one of the smaller centralized exchanges. It's something I generally wouldn't use, like we just talked about there, but it seems that withdrawals aren't going out for any coin but Adax. So this was someone who had funds on the exchange. They put in, is it down here, 3,750 ADA into it, then realized, so they were letting deposits in up until people started talking about this publicly yesterday. Yeah. And now they put up a notice to say that they're having technical issues with withdrawals. And it seems to be going on for a while now, a few weeks anyway. And you can see the solution that they eventually come up for this person here was that they sold the ADA on the exchange and bought Adax, and they were then able to withdraw that out to a DEX sell it on the DEX for ADA and ended up with 2,800 ADA. So they lost in around 1,000 ADA from doing this. My question will be is why are people able to withdraw Adax from the exchange and not withdraw anything else? So when they talked about there was problems with the withdrawal system and there was a technical issue, I thought, okay, but then when I heard this earlier on that they are letting the Adax token be withdrawn, I was kind of a little bit concerned, I would say. Definitely don't put anything into it. Make up your own mind on what you think about it. I will dive more into it over the next day or so, but I haven't. I just wanted to bring it up here when people are asking what's going on. And it is the centralized one, not the DEX.
Yeah, I'd seen it. I'd seen the Scat guys had been messaging them on a Twitter sort of thread today and yesterday, actually. And I dropped a line to see has it been resolved, and it doesn't look like it has yet. And this is a worry for me, and this is where I go, that's a red flag. Not financial advice, not guidance on what you do with your tokens, but for me, it's more or less a red flag. There's something going on that shouldn't be going on, and that's just the simple fact of it. Okay, you could say there's a problem. Binance sometimes locks down the ability to withdraw ADA whenever it's close to an epoch's end, or there's a hard fork coming up, or a fork combinator. That's standard, that's normal, but that's usually for a couple of hours at most. It's never days.
Generally they're replenishing their hot wallets, or there is questions when they do it around the epoch turn, but a lot of times it's down to them replenishing the hot wallets, taking funds out of cold storage. This is definitely different, and you can see here that Adax replied here to say that they'd be working with others who require immediate liquidity to follow this approach. That is a shit approach, that they have to sell their ADA off for Adax on the exchange. So there's a big difference in the price then with the price of Adax on the exchange and then what people can get on a DEX, because there's only going to be sell volume on the DEXs for Adax as well. People are panicking, buying it on the centralized exchange and then dumping it on the DEX.
Why would anybody be buying it? It's like most DEX tokens. Most people don't buy them. It's dodgy. There's something, and they need to come out and they need to give a timeline. They need to say exactly what's been happening, the amount of customers impacted, a full-blown sort of insight to what exactly been going on. And there's people within numerous threads today on Twitter saying them and multiple friends or people they know and people they've been chatting to have been questioning, have been unable to withdraw, have been highlighting this, been going to Telegram chats, and they've been getting kicked out. It's all adding up to not looking very good. Now, I don't want to make massive FUD storm about it all, but if they need to handle it a lot better and say there is an issue, this is the issue, and this is how long it's going to take, and this is the amount of people potentially impacted. I know there is a bit of a miss and match. Oh, you can withdraw this amount, or maybe you can withdraw that amount. Nobody knows. And I was tempted to put funds in to lose them, to show to people, is it working or not? Then I thought, no, I'm not giving my money away.
And look, I seen the Adax account come out talking about how people are just attacking them with this, and maybe this video will be used as more examples of people attacking them, but this is just showing people what's going on so that people don't actually go in and deposit, because it looks like if you do, you're going to have to take a big cut on what you get out the other side. So everyone do your own research, and hopefully this might save a few people as well who are stuck, or maybe even put slight bit of pressure on them to come out and give a detailed reason, like you said there, of what the issue is or why people can withdraw ADAX but can't withdraw ADA or any of the other tokens as well. But so they will put this down to FUD, but there's a legitimate problem there. But on FUD in general as well, we've seen it across different projects within the ecosystem over the last week as well. Mel was one of them. I'll come back to that one in a minute. So there was this here where TapTools highlighted a few large cells of Mel's on the dexes across Cardano. And then people were jumping to the team are dumping tokens. And there was a lot of people giving out about Mel. There was some coming in defending them. And it's the same as anything. When there's some information brought up about a project, generally you have people who get behind it and call everything FUD, and then there's people who jump on it who are looking for an excuse to give out about a project. So there's always two really strong oppositions in it. So it turned out in this, and Mel, I don't know if I have the reply from them here. I showed it in my summary video last Friday, but Mel came out and said that it was a private investor that was selling off their tokens. So that's fine. Every private investor has the right to do what they want with their tokens. And I don't think Meld have actually sold any of the ADA that they raised in the ISPO. I've seen that during the week, haven't clarified it. Hopefully I'll get to talk to Ken fairly soon and ask all the questions directly. But people give out about TapTools doing this as well. And I would say it's good to put these things out into the community, even to educate people on that. There's a lot more people understand now about private investors being involved, and that there's going to be a certain day of every month or every quarter where they get a lump of tokens, and you can expect to see the markets take a hit. So I think it will help people overall. I'm going to do a video on it about tokenomics and private sales and where they come in, and team tokens as well. But I would say to TapTools, if they see this, keep putting this information out there. I think it's good. You will get people who are invested into the different projects you talk about that won't like it. But overall, it's good for the community to put this information out. And they will have TapTools Pro coming out fairly soon, which I think we will get access to a lot of this. So potentially I'll be putting out stuff like this as well if I find strange things across tokens.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to TapTools Pro. But on the side of this, this is great. This is what blockchain's all about. We want to see the insights. We want to know what's going on. People have the ability to investigate and check all these things. That's the idea. And it doesn't explicitly say, oh, there's a really bad actor or Mel or doing anything. It's simply saying, this is going on. What is going on? And there's nothing wrong with a project coming on and saying, yeah, that's an investor. Fine. That's standard. How many times as most people, there's probably a lot of people listening who've invested in a project early on and sold their tokens at some point. That's just what we do. And this, I expect to see more of this, and I want to see more of this. I have their alerts on Twitter just in case there is more. But yeah, this is the type of stuff that I love to see, and it just clarifies things, and it just keeps people safe. Because if they don't do this and there is something going on, then it's highlighted there was a problem. Now they look like, oh, they're funny. Well, what if it turned out that it was the project selling? They would look like they're the saving grace for so many people. So people have so much difference of looking at these things that I think it should be the same every time. Let them do it. Tell us what's going on. Well,
yeah,
that's what tools for, isn't it? Insights.
Yeah, that's it. Look, all the students putting information out into the community, and not everything is FUD against a project when info comes out. And in this case, it turned out that I suppose it clarified that the Mel team haven't been selling tokens or anything like that. And on a more positive note, they have launched, where have I got it here? Testnet is up. As far as I know, there was meant to be the private testnet for 500 people on Monday, but they needed a few more days to fix a few bugs that they knew if they let people in, it would be the same bugs that would be getting in people's way. So I don't know if they got access today or if it's tomorrow, but I will try and find out on that. We might have more info on it next week. But you can see they did put out this stuff here about we have supply and borrowing functionality on the protocol working as expected. Got to give that a like. Here's the thread of on-chain addresses and transactions, information, and interactions we've performed. So actually, I'll share that out on or retweet it on my Twitter. So anyone who wants to get it, you can get it over there as well. But it's good to see. It's good to see progress. There's been lots of questions about Meld after they raised so much money, and I suppose caused a lot of disruption in the Cardano space when they came in first with the first ISPO and ended up with 10 pools. So there was some people really liked it. There was a big opposition against it as well. But it'll be good to see them finally deliver a product into the ecosystem as well.
Yeah, and they can invite us into the testnet if they want.
Yeah, I know there was an application process, and I didn't realize there was a date on it. I went to do it the other day and seen it had closed, so gonna have to wait.
But yeah, I think the public one should be this month, is the hints that they're throwing out.
Yeah,
so that's going to be awesome.
that one's going to run for 2 weeks, and then the public can get in then. So hopefully we'll get in and have a proper look around then as well.
But yeah, we don't have any of this in Cardano. So I'm really looking forward. Well, we do, but not like this, if you know what I mean. And we can go do. I think what we'll do is once we get access, we can show the differences to what other lending capabilities there are. But this is different. Is the only thing I would say at the minute.
Yeah. So you have AADA at the minute, but it's peer-to-peer, where from what I've seen of Meld, it'll be more like what we've seen with lending and borrowing on other chains, where it's pool to the user. So everything is in the pool, rather than on AADA, it's individual loans that I put up a request and say, I would like a loan for X ADA, and I'll put up Meld as the collateral or something like that. And then I set the terms and someone else has to accept it. Where when you have the pool, it's a lot different. There is dynamic rates of interest, and you can earn interest for putting funds in, and then obviously you pay your interest on what you take out as well. But that's something I'm really looking forward to coming into Cardano. Something else as well. What else have I got up here? Yeah, I thought that was good on what the DOJ put out. So everything that happened in crypto, and then this massive announcement for them is about an exchange that most people in crypto hadn't heard of. But that's not what I wanted to bring up there. What I wanted to bring up was about Jed.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Tweet on this one. Yeah. So thought this was good, actually. And so when we've talked about Jed before, a lot of times you see it being talked about as an algorithmic stablecoin. And even in some of the papers and that they have, it's classed as an algorithmic stablecoin. When you start to look at the properties of how it's all going to work, then it really does seem more like an over-collateralized stablecoin. I know there is other elements in when we get the next versions of it, but simple Jed is, what's it called? What's the two?
Shen.
No, I'm drawing a blank now on the two versions of Jed. It's been a big conversation this week as well. I'll look it up after, but there's two versions. You have your simplified, and then you have extended Jed, then will be the more complex one. And we're not going to have that at launch. So there has been some questions raised. Shahaf actually in his latest update, don't know, was it a direct Jed one or in part of the Cody video, he talked about it and said about where simple versus extended, why they're going with one first and they don't see issues with it. When we have extended, there'll be a bit more on the algorithm because it will decide fees and different elements. But in general, it's an over-collateralized one. What do you think on Jed and Shen?
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. And I know, and we hinted at, what do you call it? The stable coins last week, and we do have some, there is. But Jed is my most trusted, I could say. And I've been looking forward to it for a long time. And I think everybody has. And, if you wanted to compare it to another sort of stablecoin, you can look up DAI. And DAI, there is differences in the underlying processing, but it is, it's working. It's a safe stable coin that's out there, and a lot of people use it. And I'm looking forward to it. Now, fiat backed. If I was to rate the three of them, fiat backed is sort of my safest. But then you say to yourself, who the hell is backing that up? The amount of USDT that has been minted is astronomical, and there haven't been any betting of all that fiat backed, so yeah. We'll not go down that rabbit hole today. But, over collateralized, I think it's as close to it as you can get, especially because it's still backed. That's the big thing. All right, it's backed by crypto for the minute, but that has value, especially the big ones. Cardano has a massive value in the crypto ecosystem, so it's not as if it's going to go. Well, we'll not get into what happened recently with a pure algorithmic. There's a lot of people still feeling burnt after that, but this is different, and this is what I'm looking forward to, especially being able to, I don't want to be able to go into an exchange to be able to do any trading I'm doing. I'm really enjoying it at the minute using the decentralized exchanges. And I'd love to be able to flip some things into a stable coin every now and again, especially when I see news coming out instantaneously. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Jed can be very good for Cardano in terms of locking up ADA. You will have Zed and Shen, and there's some people. I'm starting to see two groups as well in terms of some people really don't like the idea of Shen, and then you have other people look at it as a big potential to get into early. I would be somewhere in between. I think there's definitely potential, but there's a lot of risk getting involved as well, because when you get in on Shen, you do well if the market goes long, then you're earning some of the extra fees, and if the price goes up, you still effectively have the value of your ADA. But then if the market starts to go down and people start cashing in their Zed, then your Shen might be stuck there. Shen will trade on DEXs as well, so you will be able to sell it off like that, but potentially there will be a price difference. So if the markets are going down and you can't burn Shen at the contract at that stage, because when collateral goes under 400%, you can't burn your Shen, then you might have to sell it at a discounted rate on a DEX if you need the quick liquidity. So I think I'll probably get involved. I'll have something in it and I'll see how it goes for the start. Definitely coming out in the current market is a lot better than if something like this came out when ADA was over $2 coming out now. And if the markets do stay good, then it does really help with the over collateralization. In terms of stable coins for myself, you touched on USDT there. There's always questions over it. One that I am looking forward to on the fiat backed side is USDA, from talking to the Emergo guys at the summit last year. And I must follow up on that to see how their timelines are looking now. I think February was the target, but they had regulation stuff to go through. They were in the process of it. So I must follow up with them and see. But if that comes out and they do have the transparency that they talked to me about at that time, then it's definitely going to be a contender for me in terms of I do hold some USDT stablecoins. So I would potentially move that into USDA, maybe some into Zed. I'll wait and see how it performs. I'll put some in the beginning, obviously, but for longer term holds, I would still favor fiat backed if there's transparency there. Or in general, I would say spread them across a few different ones that you trust, just so if the worst ever happened, that one of them failed or lost its peg, then it's not all stuck in the one basket.
I was having a thought the other day, and I was like, okay, so if I put it in, I get Shen, and I also can get Zed. I can also take them and put them in liquidity pools and exchanges, to even further increase my risk. And then I can maybe take loans against them. And it's like, where does it all go? Like, how do you manage it all?
Yeah, depending on how deep you go down the rabbit hole, you could, it's nearly a full-time job to keep track of everything that you do there. And it's definitely the type of videos that I'm looking forward to doing myself, and also looking forward to creating videos around that as well, to talk about how it works and explain to people the risks that are there as well, because some people will get in and you can recycle the same money. And in a lot of cases, lots of DeFi that we have seen across other chains, and we will see it on Cardano as well, not saying it's just other chains, is there's a lot of mix in the same money and reusing it in other places. And I suppose we see it in the real world as well, where a lot of the richest people, they use their assets as collateral against something else. So when we can do that type of thing on Cardano, I'm really looking forward to it.
You can't do it at the minute, and so much TVL on other chains is generated from that. Because there's liquidity there that's used in multiple places. It's all tracked across. So it's the same thing. I can put things in liquidity pools. I can put money against stable coins, take that other coin that's generated or other thing, put that into liquidity pools, take a loan out, put that in, and it's all going round and round in circles. And that's how some of the TVL gets generated. But not causing FUD or saying it's not right to do it. But it's like when you put money in the bank, how many times is it 10x they loan it out or something like that?
They only have to keep a small percentage of what's on their book.
It's the same principle, isn't it? But the thing is, the thing that I've always noticed, it's not on Cardano at the minute, and I'm really looking forward to the effects of it. we should take a couple of hundred ADA and put it into all these different things and track it across a couple of weeks and see how we get on by, you know, after a couple of months. Probably down, lost, all gone.
Yeah, it's something that when the platforms launch first as well, generally when you get these types of things out first, they pay higher, not Jed now, we're kind of got on to lending and borrowing and that whole rabbit hole, but when they come out first, generally there's a lot higher interest rates and there's ways to earn more money early on. But you look at, you mentioned TVL there, so Solana, I forget the name of the dev now, there was two brothers who they created a few protocols, they done it anonymously, and each of the protocols built on top of the other one. So essentially they were all using the same funds, but you put the funds into protocol 1, then you got your LP tokens, you put them into the next protocol. It gave you a bit more returns and interest through whatever token they had. Then you could use that and put it into another protocol as well. And instead of being the TVL from the first one, the whole Solana ecosystem ended up with 3x what that TVL was at the beginning, because all the protocols were built on top of each other and people were using the same money in 3 or 4 different protocols, only that it was the LP tokens and different things like that. So a lot of it can be built like a house of cards at times. So go easy when you go into it. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot more in other videos when we get to it as well.
I'm all in, Paul. All in.
I hope not all in on one protocol.
Like
let's take a quick look. Sorry?
Like I'm playing poker. I'm all in.
Yeah, we have to look into poker some night, but I think we'll have to do that on a separate channel or maybe private streams or something like that, because YouTube doesn't like gambling. So we'll look at that for a bit of fun.
We'll get in chat with the Craic guys and see what's going on over there.
Alex says Indigo has a synthetic stablecoin. It hasn't taken off. I would say it's to do with the current market. With people are very wary at the minute of the market. I think when we have other stablecoins as well, it will help the Indigo stablecoin as well. And when we get stable swaps, there's a few different ones building. You see, Wing Riders have one on testnet. Teddy Swap are building. MinSwap and Muesli Swap have both talked about stable swaps as well. So I think when them types of things come in and there's more people in the market actively trading, then all stable coins will help a bit. Some people are still wary about synthetic stable coins as well and the risk that is there. But I also know of other people who are doing very well with putting in their ADA, getting the stable coin out and using that for trading then. What else? Yeah, so Alex says on Indigo, you can mint their IUSD against your ADA and still get your staking rewards and collateral. Yeah, so there is big advantages there. And when I done the video on Indigo, the tutorial, I talked about a few scenarios about how it could be used. I done them on the simple ones, but there is more complex ones. And like that, you can keep reusing. So you do your loan, you get your funds out, you sell your IUSD for more ADA if you want, put that in as collateral to take out more. And there's lots of different strategies there. But again, they get more complex. And as they get more complex, there's more risk in them. But I think it will do well in the longer term. Actually, Alex said as well about reviewing the top Cardano dapps on Dapp Radar. We could definitely do that at some point. Not sure if we'll do it today. We'll see how time goes. But there's a Cardano specific site as well that's probably more accurate than Dapp Radar. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. Can you, Paddy?
No, man.
What is the one? As one I've used before on videos. I'll think of it after. Hey, Kyle, how's it going, man? Actually, that reminds me. I have a video done with Kyle on cybersecurity. Really sorry, Kyle. That one slipped my mind, but I will try and get that one out in the next few days. Greg, keep it simple, not stupid. Yep, as you go down the rabbit hole of DeFi and everything, when you make things more complex, it definitely adds a lot more risk. And if you are getting involved in it, do it with small money in the beginning to learn how to do it. So Alex talks again about permitting leverage on Indigo. 400% over collateralization is 1.25x leverage. So yeah, if you do over collateralization, and you can even, when you take out your loan, you can sell that off and get more ADA as more collateral and put it back in to take out another loan. But it gets more risky as you go down the line. Thoughts on ADA? I haven't used it much. I done a video on it in the beginning, and I done a few test loans on it. I haven't done a proper one on it yet. Have you, Paddy?
I think it's pretty cool. You know, I watch it. I don't have anything to use it for, but I keep an eye on it. I can check it out every other day, and I think it's cool. It's a great asset. You know, they had the first sort of lending sort of setup, which is good, and I expect to see them adding more features. But for what it is, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's one actually I must put on the list to go back and go over it again and see. I know the last time I talked about it in a video, they were bringing out the opposite side of the loans as well. So you could have the proposals and the proposals. Can't remember which side. So you could actually put up your liquidity without it being a specific loan. So I must go back and look. Has that one gone live yet? Alex says 117 unique wallets in the past 30 days for ADA. So yeah, I will look at that and we can talk about it some week here, or I might try and get a video out as well. That can be your homework, Paddy, for next week.
Thanks very much.
So what do we not talk about here? We talked about JED. We talked about the regulation stuff. Project Catalyst has a new website out. I haven't gone through this yet, but I think it was only announced today. I just seen it mentioned on Twitter, so I haven't got to go through it. I know they're making a lot of changes there. Maybe Danny could be a good person to bring on at some point to have a chat about Catalyst. Really nice guy. Met him at the summit. Does a lot of good work there that sometimes isn't appreciated, I suppose. And Catalyst definitely has a lot not right about it, but there's people actively working there trying to make it as good as possible for the community. So maybe we'll bring him on some week to have a chat if he was interested in it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get him on. We'll get his opinions on everything.
Yeah, not just Catalyst, but
yeah,
that could be the beginning, and then we'll throw the hard questions at him then. All right, so I think we have covered a lot. So testnet, World Mobile Testnet.
Yeah, World Mobile Testnet's going good, and more our nodes today, I think. Was it today? 247? Was it? They went to, but yeah, testnet is ongoing. Got my t-shirt on today just to represent a little bit. My sort of sponsored World Mobile from last season. I think they're just on the training kit this year. But from World Mobile Testnet, yeah, there's more Earth node operators getting added on. And we'll have to get 50 on one of the weeks. So he's the community coordinator within World Mobile, the team there, to come on for a chat. More not as official World Mobile representation, but just to get people on to chat about things. But a lot going on there. It seems like
this is the Explorer that you built for the testnet. So this, I suppose, this just shows people that the testnet is up and running. You can see the blocks coming in there. Transactions, they aren't running load on it at the minute, but you can see that the network is up and running, and it's good to see it at this stage. And there's more people being onboarded into it all the time.
Yeah, and it's the scale, and I think there's a press release due. Hopefully it's this week. It might be next week. I'm not too sure the date that they're going to lay out everything that's happening. So I'm really looking forward to that. So keep your eyes peeled on the World Mobile Twitter for those guys. And I think they've announced a Twitter space soon as well. So set a reminder on that. The big thing is to get an understanding of what's the roadmap for the testnet. I know mainnet is meant to be within 2 to 3 months. Q2 is it Q2 end of the Q2. So whether or not we keep to that, but the scale of which from the rumors that everybody's talking about that this needs to be, it's going to be insane. So, and how it all knits together, I think a lot of people are looking forward to hearing about. I don't have any of that info. I'm just running a node on the testnet, and I'm able to pull all this information out. That's as much as I know. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that press release is coming out sometime this week. I seen it mentioned last week that we get one this week because there was lots of talk about World Mobile are leaving Cardano and that it's another rug some people were going at. And they're not going anywhere. They will be running sidechain or side chains on Cardano. I'm waiting for the press release to see exactly how it all knits together. So I don't want to get into speculation on how that's all going to work, but that should come out this week. And we can talk about that then maybe next week. It should definitely be out by then. I might even do an individual video on it, or if it's out by Friday, my Cardano catch up this week will talk a bit about it anyway.
Oh yeah, I think the going FUD trend for the big projects was they're leaving Cardano, as if Cardano isn't good enough, and everybody who supports Cardano in these projects was all questioning, are you leaving Cardano? Is it an insecurity? I don't know, but neither of these two projects are leaving Cardano, and that's the main thing. And Mel got it, and then it seemed, I don't know if it started from the same person, but I wouldn't be surprised. Or because people sort of focused on Mel, and they went, who is another big project we can ask, are they leaving? Oh, World Mobile. Oh, they're talking of running side chains X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, they were never leaving Cardano. It's insane to think so, considering we just have around, have all the NFTs been claimed now? There's probably about 6 to 7 million TVL been added to the Cardano by World Mobile. So it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and I see where the FUD worry, whatever it is, comes from. Like Mel came out first and they announced about going to Avalanche, but they're going to be cross-chain, so they're going to have something. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to have. They're going to run a subnet on Avalanche, but they will be launching on Cardano first. Probably not great timing for the announcement about going to Avalanche when they haven't launched on Cardano first. So I see why there was worry there. And some people, they get the one point that it is Mel's and Avalanche, and it's like they're moving, they're leaving Cardano. Yeah. What's wrong with Cardano? And look, Cardano isn't going to be suitable for every project to run on the layer 1. And I would say in the future, layer 2s are going to play a huge role. Layer 2s and sidechains will play a far bigger role than the L1s will. So the layer 1s, as in Cardano, Ethereum, you look at Ethereum now, how many layer 2s are running there and not running on the layer 1. And it's going to be the same across the board. Even within Cardano, we're going to have lots of different side chains. If you look at a game that wants to run on Cardano, if you're going to have a lot of the game on chain, a lot of the saves and stuff like that, if you're saving and updating NFTs and stuff like that, Cardano isn't going to be suitable for that. When we get input endorsers and stuff like that, it becomes a little bit more suitable, but we don't really want that type of volume coming onto the main chain. That's where a side chain for individual dapps, some of the bigger ones, that's where side chains and stuff like that can really come into play. And you still bring the same security. Like the post that came out from World Mobile there about the side chains and the kit. What was it called? The drawing a blank, Paddy.
Kit?
Yeah, the side chain kit. It's getting late here. Sidechain kit that they're bringing out, that you'll see a lot of different sidechains spinning up on Cardano. There's still a few issues, I think, in the first one, but as that develops, then I think towards the second half of this year and into 2024, sidechains will play toolkit. There we go. Someone put it in the comments.
The Cardano one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes when I'm in front of the camera here, I just draw a blank, and it's so much easier when it's pre-recorded and I can cut it out. But
I was searching the database there for a World Mobile toolkit. What? Did I miss something?
And actually, loving the chat. Cheers, appreciate that. Melbourne in Australia, so both of us are in Ireland, so you're a fair bit away.
Yeah, and they're all. I've seen some rumors in some of the World Mobile discussions that they will use that kit also. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see that overall architecture being laid out. So looking forward to it. Roll on the press release. Hopefully Mickey's watching. We can put a bit of pressure.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to dive into speculation about my understanding of it right now, when a press release should come out this week. There was talk, when people heard Cosmos, there was worries that World Mobile was moving to Cosmos, but they're not using the Cosmos chain. It's part of the SDK. And, we won't get into it until the press release comes out, and then we can base our conversation on that, because like we're saying about other things, it only takes one small thing for people to take 30 seconds out of what we say here and use that as the reason for the next FUD story about some project.
Yeah, but you're sure you know yourself. Right, just today you're interacting with the Cardano testnet to prove you're a validator for the World Mobile Sidechain. Yeah. You know, so it is there, and when all the details come out, you know, everybody will see what's happening. I don't know them all. I can only see what I know at the minute, but it is there.
Yeah. So for anyone watching, I got access to the testnet now, so I was wrecking Paddy's head today, asking him loads of different questions about how to get things working, and it's a whole new learning environment as well. So, but it's great to see it up and running. This one here by Alex. There's 2 games on Cardano, Mikosi Planet and Chip. Do you want to go for that one?
Yeah.
Dango? Don't know.
I've never looked at them. I've honestly never looked at them. Alex, you're bringing a lot of great questions and great info into our chats here. We're going to have a chat offline. You seem to know everything.
Cheers, Alex. And anyone else who wants to throw stuff in, it's great. Gives us more things to talk about because we're running to the end of what we had here. So any questions, fire them in. But yeah, I have heard of both games, haven't looked into them, but about the active daily users, less than a couple of dozen. So yeah, on the smaller scale, it's fine to be on the layer 1 when you don't have to save that much. But when you start getting into the couple of thousand people playing a game, and if they're all making multiple saves every minute, or depending on what the game is, then a layer 1 isn't going to be good enough for that. So the metaverses and stuff like that are launching, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do or the solutions that they come up with. Cornucopius is one I have to bring back on. Rob and Josh, I'll message them after this actually, because I've been meaning to message them to bring them back on, and I must actually ask them how they're looking to integrate as well. Are they looking at a layer 2 or sidechain, or are they going to put it onto the layer 1? It all depends on how much is going to be saved directly on chain. But we'll see what we can come up with on that one.
Yes.
Brooke, greetings. Opinion Day, not a lot of people interested anymore. I don't know if that's in general or if that was about some of the conversation earlier on. But yeah, at the minute, markets, even though the markets have pushed up a little bit over the last week, or a decent bit in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge amount. It's still going to be a while before we get much interest in. But when you look at how crypto moves in cycles, to me, it's inevitable that people will come back, and more people than were here before. And lots of people who gave up over the last few months, there will be a decent percentage of them will end up FOMOing, back in if the markets, when the markets do take off again. Personal opinion, nobody invests based on that.
Always got to put that in there.
Yeah, or do you think we're going to zero, Paddy?
No, I'm quite positive at the minute. You know, I'm looking at the Twitter FOMO over the past week, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you know, it's things, and not to get into a price chat this week. I don't know if I want to do it, but things seem to be sort of stabilizing globally to an extent, very slowly. Now, there's a long road to go. You know, there's lower inflation in the UK. Hopefully, you know, the last time the US reported there was lower inflation. And I think this week coming, there's the earning reports in the US, which I don't know they expected. We just got to hope that it's better. Forecasts are probably not going to look good. I'll have to look into it this week and send some tweets out. But that is going to be a big impact. Usually the earning reports are pretty significant, and they do give a hit. But I think this year, you know, at some point this year, you know, things are starting to get fixed. All the economies were ruined there for a while. UK especially. The EU, you know, has been impacted. But we'll not get into price. We'll not go down that rabbit hole today, Paul. It's too much. It's too much. And it's not, we don't want to give anybody any ideas. It's, you know, no financial advice given here.
Yeah, I would say though, price talk is okay, because some people think all price talk is bad. And I think sharing information about stuff is good. Make people aware of, especially like we talked about earlier with tokenomics and early sales and stuff like that. That can affect different projects at certain times of the month where the releases come out and stuff like that. But in general, I think price talk is good, but it's as long as you don't get into wild speculation or promising people prices are going to X, Y, and Z, which unfortunately we see a lot of across YouTube. But we will start doing more on price, whether we do it here or in separate videos. There's different people that I respect out there that actually know what they're talking about, that I'd like to bring on to talk about and give opinions on that type of stuff as well. Alex here with, if you have enough stake tokens, staking rewards to cover transaction fees, then you can get into some games, high barrier of entry. So, that's back on the last two games that were mentioned up here, I would say. Yeah, sometimes it's easy to get involved early when people can get in with cheap coins, but later on you have to reevaluate what it costs to get in. It's like Axie Infinity. When it came out first, everything was really cheap, and then you needed to have certain NFTs to get in and play the game, and then other countries, kind of lower earning countries, couldn't afford them. So there was a market created within the game where people who got in earlier, who could afford the NFTs, were basically leasing them out or letting people play the game for them, and then they took a cut of it. So it's a hard one to figure out what's the best way to get in. If you can have a game that is free to play to start, and then people upgrade by getting the NFTs or getting something else within the game, I think that's a good way to bring more people into it as well. Yeah. But economies within a game as a whole, it's a whole rabbit hole I'd like to get into sometime as well, with people who can talk about how they're approaching it within the game as well. Do you think Algorand could be a layer 2 on Cardano as Matic is to ETH?
I think so.
That Algorand could be a layer 2 for Cardano?
Yeah. In that you could simply run, let's say, for example, I have there's two parts to this. How do you want to say it's running there? If Algorand has an SDK, you could take and run your own Algorand chain. Yeah, just like you could take the Cardano sidechain toolkit. You could do that, no problem. Same with Cosmos, same with a few other of these guys. There's tons of them that offer these capabilities. Plus, also, you technically could have Algorand, what everyone says is a layer 2 of Cardano, but you could have, if I have an organization, a massive organization, likes of Word Mobile, likes of anything else going on, I can run part of it on Algorand. It can be connected to Cardano for something else. Cardano can be another part of my business, and they all can be doing multiple different things. And this is one thing that frustrates me about people. Cardano should, if you're running some sort of company, organization, or anything, Cardano should be doing it all, but sometimes it just doesn't fit. The speed to finality is a big thing. And people talk about it in Cardano, and people talk about it in Algorand and the TPS, and there's nothing wrong with Cardano's TPS. Finality is a bit different. There's a bit of a gap there, but again, it all comes down to your requirements. There's probably a capability of saying you could run part of your organization on Algorand, connect it into Cardano for something else, and the other way about. Someone could be running something on Algorand and maybe use Cardano for something else and connect it in. So you could technically say Cardano is a layer 2 to your main Algorand, application. There's different ways of laying it out. It's just architecture of software doesn't mean you have just this one box. Cardano, this does everything. And nobody does that.
Yeah, well, it's like no layer 1. There isn't going to be just one layer 1 in the future either. There's going to be lots of different layer 1s, all with different market shares. But then your layer 2s are going to play a big role there as well. Algorand and Cardano will both still be their own layer 1s. Maybe there will be a solution like you say there about part running on one chain and running on the other as well. You see MiCA from DC Spark, they have a side chain for Cardano, and then they have a side chain for Algorand as well. And there will be a bridge between them. I'm not sure what the timeline is on that. I'm actually talking to Sebastian next week to talk about the gaming side they're doing, but I might try and get some more information on side chains and how they're progressing there, as well as his opinion on the sidechain toolkit from IOG or from Cardano as well. He could be a good guy to get opinions on that, of where realistic timelines on it.
Yeah. And you can look at one of the big things that I find about people using layer 2s is they control the transaction fees. You know, they control that, they get control over that process. You know, if you have a massive high throughput system where you have thousands or maybe millions of transactions, it's going to cost a lot to run them through a massive layer 1 like Cardano or Ethereum or even Algorand, you know, even though it is pretty cheap. You're depending on your scale or where you're planning to scale to, you got to take that into consideration early on. So if you have millions of transactions per day, you're not going to run on Ethereum. You might not run on Cardano, and you more than likely are just going to say, I'm just going to run my own chain and connect it into another chain and, you know, take all of their benefits, but still run my own transaction, or you call it consensus, you know. So it depends on it's so complex to say, and you can't do a broad sweep and say, yeah, let's just always do, you know, layer 2. It always depends on what's going on.
Yeah, and I think once we get proper roll-ups as well, then that's a bigger incentive even to have your layer 2s and then having them roll up and have the security of the main chain, then have the security of the layer 1, but run all your thousands of transactions on the layer 2. And look, Cardano throughput, for what's going on the chain right now, it's more than capable of what's there. You're never really waiting for transactions. Input endorsers will really change that. You touched on finality. I'm going to be interested to see how finality works there as well. And finality, for anyone, is how quickly the transaction becomes final on the chain. So right now we have blocks every 20 seconds for Cardano. So you have to wait for that to have finality, that it's accepted onto the chain. So I did see one of the posts by IOG before about, they're talking about input endorsers. They talked about that they had figured out on finality as well. I must dig back into that one and see. Sorry?
Just while you were touching on TPS, I think I sent you a link recently.
Oh, to Peter's. Yeah, he put up a new one on this, didn't he?
Yeah, Adam Dean, a lot of you guys will know him, is constantly trying to break the main chain with his awesome testing of TPS.
Let me bring this up here actually for everyone. Yeah,
this is the FUD that we get. There's no TPS on Cardano. Can't do anything.
Yeah, I seen there was questions over this, the 77 TPS. That's what Adam took up, was it? Oh no, he put it through that it was 77.
Yeah, some extra potential sense.
Yeah, so TPS counts when it's an account-based model. The likes of Ethereum, where every transaction is one transaction. There's one asset moving in it. But when you have UTXOs where you can have multiple UTXOs, multiple native tokens all moving in one transaction, that's when just using TPS becomes a bit questionable how reliable TPS is, because there's a lot more ways to move. I think as a high level, it's a fine metric to use. It's one that I was going to say it's one that's understood across the board, but I think it's one that's misunderstood across the board as well, in that people say the higher TPS you have, the better it is. But it comes to certain levels that it doesn't really matter when you get to certain levels of TPS. And with the UTXO model, it's different. As you can see here, what some people would consider 1 TPS per second, you could potentially have, you see here, 1477 on that. It depends on what metrics you measure it on.
Yeah.
And what else have we got here? And I suppose we'll wrap it up fairly soon, unless you think of anything else by the time I go through these few comments, Paddy.
No, I just wanted to touch on the TPS, but I know we get it often, you know.
Yeah, no, and that site there is a great one to visualize.
Yeah.
Let's go into the site and let it run in the background while I'm talking here. So speaking of which, Studio has here, I'm an indie game developer working on a new management game about motorcycle racing. Several arcade parts, open to share more. Yeah, drop me a message, me or Paddy a message, whichever of us, on Twitter, I suppose, is probably the best way. And take a look at it and see what's going on. Alex, don't see blockchain gaming coming in a big way until after Mithril. Yeah, and even blockchain gaming in general, I think we need to see the killer games that can compete with what's going on outside of blockchain, because the blockchain space is still extremely small. But you look at something like the gaming sector, how many people are there? And that is a sector that really could learn a lot in the blockchain space. And it seems like a perfect match because they've grown up using games, buying in-game assets. Your in-game assets should be NFTs that you can create the NFT and you have a whole aftermarket sales. And there's lots of things there. But there needs to be games that are good enough quality to compete with the games that people are used to playing on Xbox or PlayStation or PC. We need games that can compete at that level if we're going to bring in the new market. You don't just want people seeing, oh, there's a game on Cardano there. I like blockchain, I like Cardano, so I suppose I better play the game. But you need people to come in and play games because they enjoy playing them, and that's what can really kick off that onboarding there. I hope they don't bring something like Football Manager or Age of Empires or any of them kind of things, because they're too addictive.
Yeah.
Many hours lost, them types of games when I was younger.
I'd love to see someone building the likes of, as we run on the Premier League fantasy football for, maybe we could get someone to build it for us, or if someone's listening who wants to build it for us. Basically, fantasy football a bit on Cardano, rather than using the Premier League fantasy football site. That I would play. That I would do badly at every week, as I'm currently doing badly now. But we'll not get into that. So that would be the type of game that I'd love to see on stuff like that. They're not going to need massive graphics and stuff. So you can start small, but that's still a game.
Yeah, them type of games are fine. You don't need to compete with the graphics and stuff like that. Any strategy games and stuff like that, to a degree, you need decent graphics, but not to the type of level that hardcore gamers will be used to.
Yeah.
So, Studio, honest opinion, the biggest problem for current NFT games is the lack of inclusivity due to the incredible floor price for those that are supposed to be in-game assets have. Yeah, I do think that, and like I talked about Axie Infinity and how expensive it got for people to get in before everything crashed. It got extremely expensive. And you look across even Cardano now, some of the most popular NFT projects, the floor price is getting very high for some of them getting in. So I think that's why games need to have some way that's free for people to get involved in the beginning. Obviously, you can set it that any upgrades or any of the better characters and stuff like that, you do need to buy the NFTs or get involved some other way, but have a free way for people to come in and use the game where they can learn it, and use the free play as an onboarding. You can have it even like a tutorial that it onboards people to blockchain and to gaming through coming in as a free user. But it's definitely a good point on the price point for mass adoption for games as well. Yeah. AJA book IO is minting now. I'm not sure what they're actually minting at the minute. I haven't looked.
Heart of the Dragon. I'd seen them announce, have them on alerts. Yeah, congratulations, another mint.
I think a lot of the mints lately have been selling out.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing not just books that come out with loads of different covers there as well. Looking forward to seeing when it gets into, like, you just have the one book type, but they're selling, I suppose, new books as well on it and using it for what it can be. And that's your license to read the book, rather than, I think a lot of people are getting the books right now as collectibles and just as normal NFTs, rather than wanting to actually own the book that's behind the cover. So I'm looking forward to seeing as they move to the next area of where people are buying because they actually want to read the book and use it, and the NFT is your key to actually be able to get in and read it as well. I think that will be good. And as this year goes on, I think they will be progressing into that type of stuff as well. Junk is here again. Good to see you, man. Welcome. Not sure what that comment was for, Acosta. Sometimes we go off on tangents here. Entropia played Entropia for years, but it didn't have inflation, so very few players. Games that run on inflation tend to burn themselves out quickly. Yeah, so games that have, that's kind of where I mentioned about the in-game economy and how games are going to do this, because when they have their own token and the token is constantly being minted or rewarded to people for what they do in the game, how to keep up with giving people stuff that they want to spend the token on to keep up with the actual inflation that's going on in the game, because lots of times the inflation gets way ahead of the actual demand for it. So the supply just completely outweighs the demand that's there. So it's a good point, and it's one that's the type of discussion I'd love to get a few of the projects on that are building out these metaverses or games, and to talk to them about have they looked into the dynamics of this, because that will really be a big factor in how successful they are long term. Junk, that looks like broken Tetris. Yeah, that was on the UTXO site.
That was a great comment.
Could we get Tetris on the blockchain?
Yeah.
Costa was about Age of Empires.
Dangerous. Too many hours in there.
Yeah, I spent a lot of hours at that. I used to like Age of Mythology as well.
No.
I would have picked that one over Age of Empires a lot of times, I think. Command and Conquer as well was good.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I know. Mythology was good. I used to like the extra creatures. Command and Conquer was another good one.
Yeah.
I haven't played any of the latest ones, though. When I got kids, I kind of got pulled away from games and...
No time.
Someday we'll get back into it.
Yeah.
We'll pretend we're doing a live stream. We'll just come out and game some night.
You just got to go live on Twitch at the same time, and then you get the gamers in as well.
Yeah, just tell people, oh no, I'm going live stream, but we'll just go and play a game or something instead. Entropia broke many records for most valuable digital assets before the 2020 NFT boom. I haven't actually heard or seen that game before. I don't know if it's one you played.
No, I haven't.
Okay. I think that's the end of the comments that are there. Anyway, appreciate everyone that come in, watch.
Yeah, awesome.
Give it one last minute if there's anything else anyone wants to ask. If not, message us on Twitter, tag us or something if there's stuff that you want to see us talk about. This one was probably a little bit more structured than previous ones where we got a lot of the news out of the way before the questions. So let us know about the structure of these as well. Closing thoughts, Paddy?
Anybody wants to ask us anything. You know, I've had a good number of people DM me this week about questions about stuff. And there's one thing I wanted to highlight was, you know, I'll not give you financial advice or tell you what or what not to invest in. But there's guys out there who are, you know, going to invest in things that I deem risky, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, asking people their opinion. Like I ask you all the time, Paul, and you lead me astray. But only joking. It's a question of there's people out there who invest in stuff or through their 8 things, and they haven't asked anybody else about it. They're just in these pump Telegram chats that I see going on, and you know, and then I get people messaging me. What do you think of this? You know, so that's what we're trying to cover. You know, people can come in here and ask us anything. You know, when I tell you whether or not to throw thousands at it or not, it just give you a wee bit of info that we know. And that's the only bit. That only came to my mind because I've had a good number of messages over the past week about different things.
Yeah, it's good. Look, we'll give our honest opinion here on what we think of projects. Not always going to be the right opinion, but what you will get from both of us is an honest opinion on it. And we're not going to try and you see enough of it in crypto, people trying to pump their own bags and stuff like that. What we'll give here is just honest opinions on what we think of projects. And we could have the wrong angle on it or not enough information. So use whatever we give out here as part of your research. Never make your decision based on one person's opinion either. Yeah,
exactly. We don't get sponsored for any of this. The only thing that could probably sway me if you were to send me beer. This is an FYI.
Send you merch, is it?
Or beer.
Oh, beer. I thought you said gear. And then I was like...
I take beer briberies.
So any vouchers for breweries or online whiskey shops in Ireland are accepted. Someday we'll get the sponsorship from Jameson or Guinness. That'll be the target.
Fate is worthless anyway.
One last question then. How do World Mobile or WMT Earth nodes work? So I don't know if this is about the NFT or about the Earth nodes working in the network. I'm not sure.
Do you want me to give a bit of an overview?
Yeah.
Yeah, so long story short, and we can probably, what we'll do is we'll do a bit of a special once the PR comes out, Paul. And, and you'll probably have your own things come out on it, and I'll probably have one as well. But in short, the NFTs on Cardano have the 100,000 World Mobile tokens locked against them. The first part. So to claim your Earth node NFT, you had to lock that up. And a lot of people have had that available. I've had that setting for a long time, ready to collect these NFTs. There was also an auction. Some of the auction prices were pretty high. You know, there was a lot of ADA spent on getting these NFTs. And what they are is they're a license to run services for the World Mobile Network. Currently, at the minute, the first service is obviously going to be on the sidechain. And you have to, there's a bit of a bridge there that's in between to allow you to validate blocks on the sidechain. You have to have a NFT on Cardano. The main point of it is it's your permission to be a Earth node operator. That's just for, and that's for all of the services that are going to be available. There's multiple services that World Mobile are going to bring out, such as, you know, there's hosting, there's data storage, there's call routing, there's a few other, I think there was a tweet or something put out one time about everything they're planning giving and what the Earth node operators will do. But I know at the minute that's the current plan, is just to run this on the sidechain. But more, you know, I looked at some of the requirements for routing calls and stuff and data storage, and I've been planning out servers for all that. So yeah, there is 1,000. I think that it's, you know, there's only 300 to 400 holders. There's a lot of people who've got multiple. And they have been going for a high amount of data, but you can understand there's 100,000 World Mobile tokens locked against it. So it sort of increases the base value automatically. I think it's at around 55,000 ADA, maybe lower by now. It's fluctuated. Say 50 is the sort of base that it's ever going to go for, based on what 100,000 World Mobile tokens are. So yeah, have they been all claimed yet?
No, I was just looking at that there. So this is the contract that you lock up the World Mobile in and claim your NFT. So you can see that there is 301 tokens in this, and one of them is WMT. So there's 64 million World Mobile tokens locked in this, and then there's 300 NFTs left to be claimed. People have until the 5th of February. So I'm not sure what happens then with the extra ones that don't get claimed. Really, the network, when it's small in the beginning, we won't need 1,000 nodes running anyway. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but it's something we can ask the team when we get talking to them as well.
Yeah. 300 left. Oof.
300 left to be claimed, yeah.
4 weeks to look into it. Okay.
Yeah.
3 weeks to get those claimed. Yeah.
Some people might have already moved on in the last 2-3 months and they can't claim now. So if they move the ADA or move the WMT out, then they might have lost their reservation. We'll see. We'll know more in a month anyway.
Hopefully that answers the question, Robin. If you have any other questions about it, feel free to contact us.
Yeah. And we should know more when we get the press release out as well. But yeah, the NFTs, the Earth nodes run as the validators for the sidechain as high level. Ricardo says projects should only launch tokens when they have utility. By now they are all Ponzi-nomics. Yeah, when you see projects launching tokens a year or 2 years before the project actually comes out, there's a lot of speculation in it. There's arguments on both sides, bringing it out before you launch and after, due to how it's seen as airdrops and having value and stuff like that. But if they come out way too long before the project, then the token, a lot of times by the time the project comes out, the token is, there's way too much in circulation for anything or much good to happen.
Yeah, I'm connected on that one. Sometimes, the only thing I would say on it, sometimes they use it as a funding mechanism. So there's obviously a team-based allocation per release. If you don't want VC, you do that. If you get VC, you don't really need to do that. So it's a mixed bag. Or if you have the funds yourself to go and do the application building, that's the other side of it. So there is a lot of reasons. I sort of lean towards not having the token out to an extent. Whenever, say it's a small project or something that's not overly complex, then yeah. Something massive, then I think tokens are generally expected before the main utility is out there.
Yeah, I think lots of projects use them as their funding mechanism. So I see why they come out for that. And you can argue both sides of this. I think it very much depends on the project. I wouldn't put a set rule that you shouldn't before, you should after anything. I think it depends on the project and how they're going to use it. But a lot of them the markets are flooded by the time the actual products come out. We'll take this as the last one then from Tom. Have you looked at the Big Alpha Group project? Great project, great people. I haven't. I'm not familiar with it either.
Drop us a link to them or tag us on Twitter.
Yeah, tag me in something or tag the two of us in something on Twitter if you have something, and we'll look into it maybe for next week then. But we'll wrap it up there. Nearly 10:30 here in Ireland. I want to wreck Paddy's head about a few other things on the World Mobile Testnet now when we get offline, so I want to keep them for 10 minutes. Thanks for everyone that tuned in. Appreciate all the interaction, everyone coming in with questions and comments. If you haven't liked the video yet, please do so. If you're on mobile, I think you have to close the chat and like it. It does help put the word out that people get a bit of value from these, and we'll see you again next Wednesday.
All right. See you later. I just dropped a message on the YouTube there to say goodbye.
Oh, yeah. You can say it here too. You're allowed to have a closing thought.
No, I don't have anything, honestly. I think I've said enough. That's enough. I've taken down some notes again from some of the questions. They're great, and we'll try and get looking into some of those things for next week. Yeah. All right. Cheers, guys. Appreciate everyone watching. Cheers, Paddy. Bye. Talk to you next week.